right. Okay. It is 6 o'clock and I'll call the meeting to order. If we can rise for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And then Alicia, would you take roll call, please?
Yep. Lacey Oster, here. Sheree Link,
Here.
Michelle Lusha,
Here.
Bruce Blargen,
Here.
Lori Blargen,
Here.
Matt Kukalt,
Here.
Marge Below, here.
All right, our district mission, together we engage, educate, and empower all learners, bridging their passions to pathways to create successful futures and positively contribute to our local and global communities. Our core values and protocol reminders are listed. I will take a motion to approve the agenda.
I do have one change a motion I'd like to make is to remove item 6C3.
Okay, so a motion to approve the agenda with the removal of item 6C3. Is there a second? We can discuss after.
Yeah,
the
sure, I'll second it.
All right, so we have a motion by Matt and a second by Bruce. And then Ian, you want to talk about your?
That's Matt.
Matt, I'm
That's
sorry.
okay, that's okay. I can
Your,
turn it okay.
Amendment to the agenda?
Yep, I'd simply like to move this to a meeting, either our next meeting and potentially move into closed session just to further discuss this as a board as it pertains to the language in the handbook. That make sense? Questions? I'd like to have further discussion about it.
Does anybody have any further questions for Matt or any other comments?
Was it a time sensitive thing, Mark?
No, it isn't. I would just have to inform that person that, you know, it's gonna be a little longer.
I mean, I don't have an issue with it, but I mean, we can move it if it's more comfortable for you. I mean, we can move it and discuss. I didn't have any issues with it.
Well, it's, a board vote on whether we accept Matt's motion. So did anybody else have any other questions? Do you want to think about it a minute?
Well, this is something that's new for all of us, so probably wouldn't be a bad idea to have open discussion, maybe in closed session, so we are understanding all of the details.
That was my thought. I think, I don't know, I guess my opinion would be to go to closed session for that discussion. Yeah, but I would like to have some further discussion. But if the board wants to move forward, then that's the board vote.
So, any further discussion before we go to vote? All in favor?
This is to approve the agenda with removal?
Yes.
Aye.
Aye.
All right, any opposed?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye, sorry.
Yeah, no, I mean,
It said
I'm
aye,
saying
oh.
aye too.
Oh, sure.
So, motion does not pass 4-3. So I'll take another motion then.
To approve the agenda.
Yes.
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda as
Presented.
presented.
All right.
Second.
All right, so Bruce has made a motion to approve the agenda as presented. Marge has seconded. Any discussion on this? All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Aye.
Okay, so motion passes 6-1. Thank you. All right. Then we are on to open forum. I did not receive any requests.
Nope.
All right, so on to item 3. Tony and Dave, thank you for being here.
Well, thank you. This is kind of the start of the exciting time. We thank you again for having hired us to work with you. It's been very, very good, and it's always fun to go back to a district to see the changes that have taken place in the time that we've been gone. And so it's very obvious when we met with people that a lot has happened here in the last 6 years. A lot to do in the future, as there is in any district anymore. Want to say that what we're going to do this evening is first talk about the process a little bit, then talk about the online survey, talk about the focus groups that we had. Dave will do that part and present the profile. And then the last part is we want to talk about a process to get your questions together for the first round interviews. Okay, any questions about that process tonight? Okay. Well, first of all, we came and we spent a day here meeting with people, and we didn't have a huge turnout. Even though the staff had received individual calendar invites, etc., and community people had been invited. So we're going to need to work with Mark and Alicia and probably any suggestions that you have as board members to help us get more people out for that last round. And as talking with Alicia tonight again, we feel that that will raise more interest when they actually get to meet candidates, etc. So we'll work on that part here in the future, in the next month. The online survey that I'm going to share with you had 180 responses. Now, I didn't take it down, and 2 more people have responded since the deadline, but it didn't change a thing. And what we will do is send you the full report this week sometime, so that you get the questions and comments that people added on to it. Last time when we were here 6 years ago, you had 182 responses. So this is exactly in the same lane as far as people participating. It's always good when it's a lot of parents that participate, because that is their children are your customers, and the parents are your customers. So we had 113 parents, or 63% of the responders online were parents. And then the next largest group was 22%, which were your teacher licensed staff. And that's pretty common to have them be the second group that's most participating. And you'll see that there's some impact from staff participating versus parents in a couple of the areas. Then the next group was the community. You had community business members, about 17% participated, and about 11% of your support staff participated in the survey. So you had a good participation in that way, I think. The strengths of the school district were the first areas that were inquired about in the survey, and which is very, very common. The 2 of the 4 highest responses were dedicated and highly competent staff, and teacher quality. Competent staff was first, the third one was teacher quality. So they're both very consistently high there. Class size was viewed very positively here as the second thing, and I think that's a real credit to you. And then strong community pride, which didn't surprise us at all, because that's what we heard was as we met with people too, is great pride in the schools. The challenges that you're facing are first, effective board governance. 61% raised that as one of the challenges for you to address in the future.
34%.
I'm sorry, 61 people, 34%. I'm sorry, thank you for catching that. Competition with other districts and schools was 23%, the second greatest challenge. And the next one was quality facilities, and I think that really relates to potential for growth, and a lot of people brought up in our focus groups some things that Dave will talk about. And then understanding and supporting diversity in the school district, 18% raised that as a challenge for the future. And your goals, this is very consistent with what we got out of the focus groups too, the goals that you need to address in the future. Top goal was 68%, raising this as a concern. I'm sorry, 68 people, but almost 38%, raising it as a concern to strengthen our academic programs and curriculum and improving facilities. And then here's where I believe staff had impact. The third highest goal to achieve is improving staff morale, but that was 27% of the responses, and I think that's an example of where staff weighs in. Maintaining programs for all student achievement levels, that really goes along with the strength in our academic programs. And then assuring student well-being, although that was the fifth one, I put it in because I think that that's a common concern in school districts right now, every district we've worked with, assuring student well-being. And I think it relates to two things, as we heard, partly the pandemic, and partly there's just a mental health concern for kids right now, across the country actually, across the country. And then most important skills and characteristics for the new district administrator. The first one is 73 people responded with a 40% response, 40% of the responses was builds a good team and brings out the best in others. And then consistently to fit with the goals. The next one was has a deep understanding of curriculum, instruction, and how students learn. The third one, highest response at 28% almost, is a collaborative consensus builder and able to work with all constituencies and viewpoints. And that's also a concern that's coming up across districts. Holds others accountable. You'll see that in Dave's presentation too. That came up very consistently. And then is visible in the schools and community. Fits very much with all kinds of people's input that we met with. So you will see that this is quite consistent. The surveys filled out with the input, same input that we got from the people that we met with face to face. You only had one response in the Spanish one. So I didn't integrate that in, but it was concern about diversity and academics for kids. Again, consistent. And I will turn it over to Dave for the focus groups and the profile.
Good evening, board. My first opportunity to sit before you. So I would just echo what Tony said, that we're really pleased to be working with your district. And had a very interesting day, and we look forward to working with you through the early interviews and then the later interviews in the process. We had 8 different focus groups that we held. We had focus group with district administrators, students, certified and non-certified staff, a community chamber focus group, the building administrators and the behaviorists, the government leaders group, and the parent group. Then we did individual interviews, as you know, with school board members and with Mark, with the district administrator. So all of your data and the focus group data is included in that profile report that you're seeing. Now, in the focus groups, I actually put a lot of time analyzing what we see. It has a few pages like this, kind of the cheat sheet, so to say, where I went in and looking at the characteristics desired, there were 47 different data points that were brought up, but there was definitely a collection around a few of the items, some of which also came up in the survey. And you will see these in our proposed profile to you. The things that really kind of came together through these different groups, both the individual interviews and the focus groups, we heard real clearly the need for a strong communicator and especially a strong listener. And that tied into looking forward to a possible referendum. And it also tied into that government group. And there were a lot of points that came out about the school district needing to work very closely with the other governmental entities going forward in the planning, communicating, whether there be a referendum or not. But that whole communication angle, both to the community, to the staff, that came through very strong in those groups. Tony mentioned accountability. We heard that a lot, that a desire for personal accountability throughout the district, but also accountability to district processes, procedures, board policies. That was a strong theme that came out. Another was that you're looking for someone who can deal with the political divide. And Tony and I, having done a lot of searches in the last couple of years, would say your district does not stand out in that just about every district we're working with in the last couple of years has been, dealing with some divided feelings in the community, and that came up, and that you would be looking for a leader who can work with that, work at bringing people together, and be seen as someone who's again bringing people together within the district, but being very diplomatic and intense about listening to people's points of views. That came out. We heard an awfully lot about you're wanting someone who is visible, engaged, embedded in Somerset. I don't know how many times that day I heard, we need somebody who's going to be a Spartan. And this, being a part of the community, not only the school district community, but the greater community. We also heard, interestingly, from several points of view about someone who understands smaller school districts and how they operate. Some people went so far as to say, we should be looking for candidates who would be coming from similar sized districts. But others at least saying, we need someone who understands how districts of our size work and operate. Handling the projected growth, that came up a lot. I think people, you look around your community and what's beginning to happen, and a lot of people are concerned that the district will be able to be proactive and ahead of the growth that's coming. And that's not to say you aren't there, I didn't hear that. But that looking to the future is going to be an important characteristic of your new superintendent. Improving student achievement. came up in just about every group. That there needs to be a focus on improving test scores and overall attention to academics and achievement. Working together with all of the government entities, I had already mentioned that back in the communication one, but that came out very strongly. And then there, you know, especially in some of your staff groups, there was quite a bit of input around the facility needs. I mean, I heard about a need for an auditorium. I heard about needs for outdoor facilities. Those came out pretty strongly, again, especially in your staff groups. So if you take the information that Tony gave you regarding the survey, you put that together with our focus groups, with all of the individual input from board members. Tony and I and Ken worked together on developing a proposed set of characteristics that we think, based on what we've heard, that you are looking for in your new superintendent. And those are on page 18 of the profile report. And I don't know, I mean, I can read through these if you would want me to, but you've had a chance to look at them, so our time might be better spent. You know, kind of getting your feedback. Does this, you know, does this look like something you want to go forward with? Are there things that you think we've missed the mark on that need to be added? Or do you want to change the emphasis of some of these? Our goal is that we would leave here this evening, you know, having an agreement on this profile, because this is what we use as we interview candidates. We send this out to candidates. Most candidates are anxious to see this. So, you know, let us know what you're thinking about these. Or do you, Lori, I can certainly, we can go through them one by one if you
I
Oh,
don't
would like
think
to
we
do
need to
that.
go through them one by one. I was just going to ask if anybody was ready to make a comment about what you thought of the profile, the draft.
So is the draft profile the 18 pages that you sent us?
We're right now just talking about the profile for the new superintendent.
Which is page 18.
Page 18, yeah.
Just the last page.
We wouldn't actually expect you to make changes in the other 17 pages, because that's the input that we actually received
Right.
from people, or the survey, and so it's really page 18.
Yeah, I sent the whole.
Prior
Oh,
to
that's
looking
right.
at
Hmm?
the comments that all those focus groups had, and then that page 18, I think it was summarized well as far as kind of taking all of those points. There wasn't anything as I was reading through that was really brought up that was missed, and I think it summarized it really well.
Cherie, did you want to say anything?
No, I like how you guys broke down the 47 points, and I really, as I was going through, that makes a lot of sense. That was the same information that I've been hearing as well. So I think the profile looks great.
Michelle?
I would agree.
Bruce?
No, it's good.
I thought it was great. Yeah, I thought you guys did a really good job consolidating the information. The only preference I would have, and it's totally a board decision, is there was one bullet point that I'd like to have moved to the second position, and it was The bullet point possesses a strong education and leadership background with knowledge of curriculum teaching and learning, and will lead in the hiring, development, and retention of high-quality staff. And the reason I have that preference is because in all the focus groups and the surveys, that was a comment that was made by many, many people. The attention on academics and student achievement and test scores. And that comment seemed to kind of go with the first one, and so that's my only suggestion.
You're saying just move bullet point
That bullet point up to become
Up to
the
the
second one.
6 to
Six,
make it number
6
2.
to 2.
Yeah. Makes sense.
And we can tell people that that's kind of the 2 priorities and the rest are not.
Well,
in a
I
priority
wouldn't
order.
say that.
Well, that's like,
No, and
I don't
I-
think
Big
that these
concerns.
were in there for an order of priority.
Yeah, I don't want that to come up.
Yeah.
You don't want that to be.
These were not in any type of priority.
No, these are not in a
No.
priority order.
Maybe it's
Right.
that you're saying, Laura, that they're the same, or
They're
they're
related.
related.
They're related.
Yeah. Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
I think that makes sense. We'll make that change.
Mhm.
And
I've no other comments, looks good. I see good representation.
Marge?
No other comments. Did a good job.
Good,
Thanks.
thank you.
So would you like to have a motion and a vote on moving that bullet point?
I don't
We,
think
we want.
We don't need a motion for that.
How about
We
the
want
board?
a motion on accepting.
We're
that.
good.
We do it
I
by
think it's-
consensus or by motion.
Yeah,
Okay,
we don't need action, but we,
Just consensus
we
is
do
fine.
need your consensus. But we will make that change.
thank you.
And then we'll take draft off and send you a final copy.
And Tony, you had said in your email something about posting it on,
We ask that it be posted on your website as where you have your superintendent search information. And then we share it with candidates. And
so it does not get posted with the, with We Can in the Minnesota and on your site?
We don't post it on our site either. We give it to candidates.
Okay,
And we tell all candidates to go to your website to see it initially. And if there's someone we're not looking at, you know, after we initially look through their materials and we're not pursuing at all, we usually don't say anything much.
so where, Alicia, do we have a place on our website about the superintendent search?
I just put it at the bottom in the news section with a link to like where that focus group information was, the survey link, stuff like that. So I could put it there,
So
or
it's
I
in
could put it on the
district
board
news, you mean?
page. What's that?
So it's in the tab for district news?
Like at the very bottom, so if you pull up our website,
Uh-huh. Because I was looking for it and I couldn't find it.
it might, it's probably off now though, because the survey's closed and the like that's all done.
Oh,
But I
okay.
could put it in that area,
Maybe
or
another-
anywhere else you want, wherever you think it makes sense on the webpage. I can
Maybe
do that.
another thing to do is if you put superintendent search, you could put this up and put the calendar with the dates for the interviews going forth.
Yeah,
I'll pull some tomorrow and take a look. at it.
yeah, because I can only
Okay.
do one link, but if I link it to a folder, I can do that, yeah.
We'll pull-
I'm happy to put it
We'll
wherever.
pull a couple sites and I'll
I
show you
think
exactly
we
what,
want
'cause that's very
it
common.
in a very
Okay.
visible spot.
Yeah, on the front of your web page. That's often where it is, right on the front when you get into your web page, your website.
Alicia and I can do that tomorrow, it's
Okay.
very common.
Can we maybe, I know you only have 3 spots down there at the bottom, but.
Well, that's okay, if you're looking at it in that kind of top part that says view all news, if you click on that, it'll open up and I can have, I think like 6 or 7 different things in there.
Okay,
Only 3 show at a time at the
Right.
bottom.
but then they can click on read more.
Yep, yep.
That'd be awesome, thank you.
Yep.
because as we move forth also, and you narrow it down to 2 or 3 finalists, we'll ask that you put their names up there with their current position and district that they're coming from. And then once you narrow it down to the individual that you're entering into contract negotiations with, we'll want you to put that up there. So it's a good communication tool, and we did tell people to watch for that information. And we did tell people that we met with in our focus groups, including the students, to please look at their calendars and try to participate in that interview process on the 23rd, 4th, and 5th. So we've given them, the people that actually came, we've given them that. But we didn't have anybody show up to the open community meeting in the evening, and that's a meeting that would be really good if people could attend, because it is the community that they're serving, the district administrator. So we'll work to try to drum up some more participation.
Could we do that as a Facebook invite, like as an event on there, so people could share it?
We can get it out.
So the next thing, we sent you a list of potential questions. And our purpose in doing that is we have questions in here that we think are possible ones that a district should really consider for a superintendent or a district administrator. And then we added questions and modified questions based on what we learned from our survey and from our group participants. Here's 2 ways that you can put together your 14 to 15 questions for your first round interviews. And open or closed session, the questions have to be the same for every candidate, and they have to be asked in the same order. And we usually suggest that the same board member ask the same question each time. So there's 2 ways that we've been typically doing this now to get prepared for the questions. You don't want them to be out in the public, and you don't want them, so anybody can see them in writing by going anywhere on your websites. So we suggest that you, here's the first one, that you work with your board chair, and each of you go through here and pick the ones that you think are the ones that you would like to see asked. And there's interestingly quite a bit of consistency among board members as to what they each see. You don't have to pick these questions. You can modify a question, or you can say, I think question 22 kind of fits with question 28, and modify, bring them together and give a suggestion to your board chair. Then between Alicia and the board chair, they send back out to you which questions were the most frequently asked, and you keep narrowing it down. And one of us will work with you also on this process, so that you actually create the questions with your board chair and as a group by kind of redoing them a couple times. It hasn't taken any board that's chosen this method more than about 2 rounds to get their questions done.
And that's all done via email then?
Yeah, by email, by sending to you and Alicia what you each see as your top questions. And you need to ask 1 or 2 questions out of each section. You gotta ask something about curriculum. Obviously, that's very important here in this district, about your leadership and working with groups, etc. So try to do that too, and that's where we kind of help facilitate. We'll help with wordsmithing and helping you with that. Sometimes we'll make a suggestion about something that you've given, and then you send it out to the full board. But typically, we help to just facilitate that process. The other way that you can do it, that we do, is every one of you go through the questions and pick your favorite, the ones that you think you really want to ask, and you come to the board meeting, and we work on them. We don't usually talk too much about what the content is. We talk about the numbers. Question number 7 could be combined with question number 12, and we do end up talking about the wording then and wordsmithing. We ask
do
that
on the 9th.
and we would do it on the 9th, the night that we present the candidates. So you would all study these, come in with your list. That usually takes us about, anywhere from 30 to 45 minutes to pull those questions together into your 14 or so. And we will say that we think you should ask question 1. And we think you should do something with 68 between 70 as your final question. Now, one district just said to us, what we want to ask out of that 68 to 70 is, why here, why now, why us, why you? Why here, why you, and why now? So you can create questions, you can modify these, or you can bring them to, or you can just choose questions out of here. What we want to leave here with is knowing which process you want to do. Work with your board chair and Alicia and me or Dave or Ken, probably me.
Probably you, that's what I was thinking.
Probably me, to put together your list of questions. Or do you want to do it the night of the 9th?
On the night of the 9th, we have our facilities committee making a presentation, and I was talking with Mark about that earlier, and he said it's probably going to take about a half an hour, 45 minutes for that. So my suggestion is that we do it via email, so that we're not spending 30 to 45 minutes in a school board meeting working on this. Also, it would protect the confidentiality of the questions.
Mm-hmm.
What do the rest of you think?
I agree, I think we should do it via email, but I also, maybe there's a point, right, to discuss them with you to make sure that we're on the 9th?
What we will do is confirm on the 9th that the list is together, and we'll see, we'll have a copy, and we'll see that you've gotten a copy from us of what the actual questions will be for the 10th and 12th.
And we have a closed session.
We have a closed session with them on the 9th, so
Yes.
we've kind of finalized, I'm guessing, the questions in that closed session.
And even on the 9th, you might have like 1 or 2 points after you've all reviewed what your final ones are.
So are you asking, we would email our top 15 questions to you and Lori and Alicia, and then,
To you also, Tony?
That'd be fine.
Just,
Good.
okay.
so then, and you put them together,
Send them back out to you.
send them back and say, all right, here's the 30 that people had, now kind of do the same thing, is that what you're asking? And then we have a lot of back and forth.
But you said it usually only takes.
No, it usually takes about 2. One group it took 3.
I'm just saying, I
but-
want to make sure everybody, all of us on the board get that feedback, or, maybe it's, could you make sure that, hey, I have them all but yours, Bruce, send them back.
That we'll have Alicia and make sure that we do. And, yeah.
And on the 9th, we
What's the
finalize.
maximum that you want us to highlight? I mean,
The
can we do
max-
5 out of
oh.
a category, or there's a
Usually
few
peop-
categories that you guys have really great questions.
We want you to have at least 1 question out of every section. Leadership, you might have 2. The most we ever have out of a section related to like curriculum or communication or that is 3, the most. And then you've got to have question 1 and something there for the end. And then if there's time, we always add the question, do you have any questions of us? Because if there's time, then the candidate can continue to use their hour to talk with you. And
But it's-
sometimes that becomes very productive.
As far as our response to you, can we select 5 out of
Oh,
the
sure.
communication category, and
Sure.
then you're gonna dwindle down, here's the top 2, or?
Because
whatnot
what we'll
there?
do is look at how many people had the same question. What are the most frequently noted questions? And that's what we'll start with to build the 14.
So you want a total of 14 questions at the end?
At the end, and it can be 16 with the first question and the last. What questions do you have? It can be 16 with that.
All right.
And most candidates do finish their interview in time to ask at least 1 question of you
So
as a board.
send you 16 questions, when do you want us to send you those by?
Tomorrow.
In order to make sure that we do the process, today is, let me pull up.
Today is April 25th.
25th, and we need them done by the 9th. Just a second, let me do a little
So if we
thinking.
had them by the end of, the first round by the end of this week?
Yes, if we had everything by the end,
By
by Friday, then we can work on it over the weekend to see what the most are, come back to you on Monday with a product.
And then we'd have to have another round,
Mhm, probably.
probably.
First round emailed by Friday. 14 questions.
14 to 16?
Well, she
No,
said,
You'll
you
get 'em
can,
back to
your
us in 14.
choices, each
Okay.
of you, your choices.
Yeah.
You might have more than 16 in this round. You might have 20 or 25. But we'll get it down by looking at the frequency of response for a question, we'll get it narrowed down. Somewhat, yeah. It usually works pretty well. Actually. And then it maintains that confidentiality of questions too.
I'm sorry, I have already sent it to Ian, yes.
And your new board member will be included?
Yes.
Okay. Yep. I think we're done then, unless you have questions of us.
I'm good. Everybody else?
Mhm.
All right, thank you so much, Tony.
Sure.
We so enjoyed, last time we went to the restaurant, Not Just a Cafe, and it was burger night special. And it was so good that we're taking our spouses this year.
Yeah.
After our meeting.
Pretty good, I was just there.
$3 on
You were just there.
Just before the meeting.
Good food there.
Yes. And very pleasant people. It was very nice.
Come back on a Saturday morning and get the pancake. It's this way.
That's what the man
Next to a
told
guy
us.
and he told us the pancake goes over the edge of the plate. So we'll do that.
Yes.
Thank you very much.
Thank
Thank you.
Thank you.
And I'll work with Alicia and that, we'll talk. Okay?
All right, the next item on the agenda then was the Cesa Board Professional Development. And I contacted Cesa about, not Cesa, I contacted WASB
Oh, okay, sure.
about whether they were gonna have a video of these meetings so that we could do it remotely. And there is one on Thursday, April 28th, but after Thursday, April 28th, it will be posted on the WASB website. So we could view it on our own independently at any time, or we could set a special session to view it together so that if we had discussion that we wanted to have at that time, we could do that. So what is the board's preference?
I think it'd be good to watch it together, but we've got a lot in the next couple of weeks. Like, I don't know
Well,
how
we
we do
could-
another night.
Yeah, we could wait until June, and do it.
It's still active and available.
Oh, yeah, and we could do it in the Monday, either before the work session, there's not a meeting, or the Monday between the work and the regular session. It's up to us.
I'd like to wait till June, just because we have the new superintendent, you know, Mark, you know, came to the one that we went to before, so that person could hopefully join us as well. And Mark, if he wants to come hang out.
Gee, thanks.
Bring popcorn. I'd like to wait till June personally as well. I think May's gonna be a lot.
And can we wait and get it scheduled in June once we know everybody's schedule and what's gonna work?
Yeah, and we might even want to wait until July to make sure that the new superintendent is on
Active.
board. Would that be better?
I don't know. Yeah.
I'd prefer to wait.
Okay.
I'm not making popcorn in July.
June 30th then.
All right, so we will come back to this in June. Listening session summary, Marge and I were both here.
And nobody else came.
So we have-
Nobody showed up, evidently they don't have questions, I don't know.
So that's our report.
And there's one set up right now for May.
Yeah, there is.
Yeah, see how they go, and if
You're
there's
available.
issues, they'll be full, and if there's no issues, you'll be sitting by yourself.
And that's probably a good thing. Superintendent?
The May 16th is the next one, right?
I believe so,
That's the regular.
yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Who signed up? You know who signed up?
Marge is right now.
So someone with the phone.
Anybody else want to come?
On the 16th?
Possibly can. I'll let you know.
Okay. Well, you don't have to let me know, just put it on the,
Oh, yeah.
Who can add to it? Because I tried adding my name before. Who can add us to that
All
one?
of us can,
Should have
we all
added.
have editing rights. Sometimes though, when you're in a Google Doc, if you are not going through, your own Gmail, your school Gmail address, on the scholarship committee, we've had people who've had problems, editing docs because they were not in their, school email address. That might be it, I don't know, Sheree, but, you do have editing rights.
Okay.
And if you want something,
You have rights. You're an editor.
so I'm thinking it might be because you're not going through
Oh, it
the
was
school.
on this computer. Okay.
I'll add Ian on there too.
Thank you. Anything further on that? Superintendent's report then, Mark?
Yeah, real quickly on the facilities committee that was going to come tonight, but they'll present on the 9th. And basically what I mentioned in the weekend update is that Wold and Margaret Johnson will present all the information that the committee covered over the 3-4 meetings we had. And then there'll be a couple of spokespeople from the group itself making a recommendation to the board on projects that they would like to test in the community with this community survey. And then, we can, whatever questions you have as far as, I think I think I sent you a sheet about tax impacts. I mean, we can talk a little bit about that. But really, these are broad categories that they'll probably want to test. And then we'll, the community will speak and see where the support is or isn't. And, you can, this year you had the opportunity of running an election in April and in November. Next year you have only one opportunity, that's in November, or excuse me, April. So every other year you get 2 shots at it, but you can only ask 2 questions a year. So no matter what they come up with and what the survey comes up with, you could break it down into a couple of questions, high support questions and lower support. So there's a lot of different things that can come out of this, but we're taking it one step at a time. They'll make that recommendation to you, and then we'll go from there. So, and if we're going to survey the community, again, I'll work with school perceptions on putting that together, same as we did last time. So, the next piece I have on here is staffing. We've been working quite a bit on this, and we've got several openings, retirements, people leaving, and what have you. We're combining this and we're looking at our numbers, our budget numbers over what we're seeing for this next year. And what we're trying to do is fill everything internally. And I think we're at a point here, until we get on solid ground with what the state's gonna start doing. The state's held us flat with funding, and we've been living off of ESSER. ESSER dollars are different for every district. So what some districts get, we don't get, and vice versa. So right now, Dave's projection, I think he's mentioned this before, and we'll know more towards the end of June, is that we may be seeing a shortfall of $400,000. Okay, now that's not in concrete, but that could be there. One piece is that you've got a very healthy fund balance, which you can, the items I'm going to talk about, we can manage this for 1 year, but if the state does not come through, you're going to be faced with some you're gonna have to make some changes. I just don't see how you're not going to be able to. So what we're looking at is about $300,000 we could save in covering all the openings internally. We're gonna be shuffling some people. We're probably gonna take a couple grades in the elementary, really low class sizes to 4 sections, so we can cover some of the other pieces that we have. And tomorrow we'll probably be solidifying some of these pieces that we have. We've got middle school openings and we've got high school. We did put a document out to all the staff saying, if you're interested in any of these positions, you let us know, because we may see things that are better fits and what have you. So I started out with a budget piece. The other piece that I talked to Linda Skogman today, and she said we're gonna see a minimum of a $200,000 increase in healthcare. A
What percent
minimum.
is that?
Pardon?
Do you know what percent that is?
I think it's 9 or 10%. So again, she said we'll firm that up, but she said it looks like it'll be a minimum of 200,000. Now, so again, with that, steps and lanes are gonna come, 2 ways to look at this. Steps and lanes will cost us about $180,000. Most districts right now are putting between 3 and 5% increases. They just are. I mean, that's kind of the average with Cesa. Letters from the big, notes from the, articles from the big districts, that's basically what we're seeing. Cost of living is up there. So I don't see how we're not gonna get by with doing, something along that line. But, when you tally that up, we've gotta make these moves internally while we can, while people are not losing jobs. As I look forward 2 or 3 years down, if the state doesn't come through, you're gonna be forced to make some other moves. And the only thing that's keeping us in a halfway comfortable position going into the next year is you got a good fund balance. You're gonna have to probably spend some of that down, but we've built fund balance in the last few years, so again, we're gonna have to spend some of it. If we make these moves, again, we'll save about $300,000 in staffing, but there's gonna be some noticeable changes. Not huge ones, but if you have to go into the following year, 80% of your budget is people. No way around it. You can cut paper, tape, glue, and what have you, and it doesn't make a big impact. So you gotta look at people and programs and the least impact. Shannon and I have talked about this quite a bit. Anytime you vary from a standard 6 or 7 period schedule, they get expensive, and that's why schedules don't usually die because of academics, they die because of finances. And so these are something we have to keep our eye on. We have to make some good chess moves right now and protect those vacancies that are opening and not rehire from the outside, if you follow what I'm saying here. So tomorrow, during our admin meeting, we'll probably solidify what some of these moves are gonna be, and then I'll send it out to you on the board, so you can see just where we're going. Just wanted to inform you on that.
We have already hired people.
In positions that we didn't think we could fill internally, we've hired. Some of the difficult ones, what have you. There's just a few that we've known for a bit, people are interested in making some of these moves, so we're just trying to we've had a lot of serious discussions on this, and so I think we're down to pulling the trigger and saying, okay, here's the moves we gotta make, because we need to protect that about $300,000 people that are going out the door and the shuffling and what have you, that gap there. I mentioned it before that we need to create some capacity, because every percent we put on the schedule is $100,000. And again, I don't see a way around that. We're gonna have to do something. I mean, we just have to. We would be sitting out there as an outlier, and we'd have mass exodus if we didn't do something in that range with salaries. And we'll come back with more details on just how we see that playing out.
Mark, when do you think we need to make that decision so that we don't have people, maybe when do we have to say we're adding 2%, 5%, whatever percent?
Personally, I would wait until Dave gets a solid number on that budget deficit, but I think in your mind, you kind of know the framework right now, see, you know, what you, if we can protect this 300,000, that's about what it'll cost to, you know, put 3 to 4% on the schedule. So what you do with staffing now will cover that. Then the other deficit is that healthcare and the budget.
I guess I just don't wanna wait too long and people leave because Hudson or Richmond's offering, you know, the money now. I don't wanna be behind that,
Well,
I guess.
Again, I think if the conversation is, and again, met with the MBC soups and Cesa soups, it's right in that 3 to 5. I think Madison put 4.5% on, and it's in that range there. You know, so I don't know if we can wait, we should, you know, for McGrath,
Well, yeah.
you know, that's for the future and some other pieces, but I think what we need to do is put this money out there fairly, you know, this summer sometime. So I'd wait till Dave gets those solid numbers, just make sure we know where we're at.
Will we have an opportunity for all of the board members and new board members to sit down and learn about the steps and lanes and where we're at and what the gap is and what that looks like?
Well, we can sure put it on a work session and have that conversation.
Yeah, I'm not sure if it would be, I agree that it's important that everybody knows about it because that was in a lot of the comments that, and every time we do a survey, that comes up. I don't know if we're gonna have time really in May, and I don't know if you wanna wait until June. I mean, it's up to us how long you're willing to
You
have
know,
a
if you wait
board
till
meeting.
June, if you do the June work session, excuse me, I'm sorry, but you're gonna have a new superintendent on board, and that's gonna add another
You're
you know,
in July.
voice to the table. But that person will be named, and I would advise you to have them in conversations with what's going on, because that's the person who's gonna have to deal with some pretty significant budget issues coming up here.
So we have had a board meeting several years ago where Dave explained all that. But we can sure do another one in July. Does that sound reasonable?
Well, I think June would,
Well, June or
Slow-
July,
slow
you know,
down then.
whatever.
We
Yeah.
started in June.
yeah.
Yeah,
I just didn't think we'd have a new superintendent on board, especially the beginning
Well-
of June.
I'm happy with Dave. I would like Dave to present us through, I mean, for new people and just, and two in general, like Dave brought up last meeting, going and see him, I think is a good start, but then I would like him to basically tell everybody where we're at the meeting, so everyone hears. I'm good with that in June, and the superintendent, new superintendent should hopefully be involved at that time, but yeah, I'd like to see it in June.
So the
Just to
session
start
in
it, I don't
June.
wanna wait, cause at least the staff knows that we're trying right now to make it happen. And, you know, these are the numbers we see, Dave, help us out.
You know, you'll survive this for 1 year, and then next year you'll have to really take a look and see what the legislature does. I mean, you could actually survive for 2 or 3 years, but you'd be broke. So
And that affects our bond ratings,
it does.
so we don't want
No,
to.
you don't. Again, comfort-wise, you know, going into next year, you know, with all, our funding's been so unpredictable, you know, with the state flat, ESSER money flying here and there, and everyone getting different amounts. It's been difficult for Dave to, you know, pin that tail on. So it's really gonna be critical what the legislature does this next year, you know, for funding, and they've got the money. You know, and they're fighting the same battle across the river.
You wanna add, I guess, percentage, or, not percentage, but, what do they call it, increase?
Cost of living?
Yeah, or like grid increase, what do we call it,
We can
raising
frame
the
up-
whole,
We'll
Yeah,
frame
raising
up
the
a
whole
couple
thing.
different scenarios here. For some districts are just giving a flat X amount of dollars to licensed staff and a percentage or so much, you know, per dollar for the support staff, or they're going straight percentages. So there's some options coming up, and Dave and I talked a little bit about today. We'll frame up some of these different options for you, so you can kind of see exactly where we're at. I just wanted to put the why behind why we're, what we're doing here as far as trying to create some budget capacity, so, you can move forward with this in a reasonable manner.
Because that was another comment, was the percentage raise, and you raised the grid a percent. Yeah. So, something maybe we should look at too.
Right.
Mark, with the exits, are you confident that with licensures and teaching areas that there won't necessarily be cuts to specific staff to fill those, or?
So right now, what we've been looking at is trying to fill all the openings, the ones that we know we can't fill. There's some
Yep.
science positions that,
Yeah,
one at the high school we just, got today, but, in the middle school, there's someone else that wants that. So we've got some good opportunities to move people within their licensure.
Okay.
And we've asked people that are interested in these positions, like we've got a face position at the middle school, we've got the media center over there. If you're interested and you have the licensure,
okay.
that's our first criteria. And we can always work with people, on licensure if it's not too far out, things like that. So, again, we know we've got the people here, and again, change is difficult for some people. They may not like some of the things we recommend, but people aren't gonna lose jobs this year. And that's always been one of my, as long as I've been a superintendent, how can we right size without people losing jobs? And, administration 101 is look at attrition, look at some of the things, people are retiring, things like that, and try and make those moves before you really have to get down into the, people are gonna lose jobs.
And what about class size?
Pardon?
Class size?
Well, we're looking, we've got 2 really low classes in the elementary school, so we're looking at those going down from 5 to 4 sections, which would still keep them within reason. But then that would help.
And that's more upper elementary versus lower elementary?
One's lower and one's, upper,
Wasn't it the third grade?
That was second
Current
grade,
third
we
grade.
only had.
second and fourth, we're looking at. So,
Current fourth grade?
again, we'll probably, what's that? What's that?
Nothing.
Is that upcoming fourth grade? So
That's letting
this year's
opinion.
third graders? Or does that do once they move into the
Yeah,
middle school?
yeah, it's coming into fourth grade. And then, again, we have to make moves that make sense, and, what have you, try and protect, our class sizes that we have. But also, I don't want to be cold, but we're a business too. I mean, we're not gonna be in business if we don't make some of these decisions right now. And again, no one's gonna lose a job, which is always good.
So in the next 2 months roughly, Dave should have a good idea of potential deficit.
Correct.
We'll be able to meet and then discuss a 3 to 5%
Yep.
potential grid increase.
Something like that, yeah.
So by early summer, we should have a good
Oh,
idea
yeah.
of where it lands. Okay.
Every year, this always seems to drag out until October, November, and then,
I told Dave to figure it out by July 1st.
Yeah.
thanks, Mark.
Just kidding.
Did anybody have any further questions for Mark?
That tax impacts, can you resend that, please?
Yeah,
Sure.
because I.
Yeah, I don't think you sent it to the board.
Did
I
you get
know
it?
somehow I saw, thought I saw
I thought I
something.
sent it to you. I'll send it to you. Enrollment, it hasn't changed from last month, same picture.
All right, and if anybody had a question about the financial reports, would you please email Dave as he left for the day while Marge and I were here? Advanced operations, then, we have 2 items here. The school health service medical advisory position and the high school course handbook. Both of these items were on the work session. I would just like to make sure, and this was discussed at the work session in April, that when you click on that school health service and you get the attachment up at the top in the black, it has the date. The date isn't on the document itself, but it is a 1-year position, but Dr. Ramsey is no longer in the district. So Dr. Balil actually took over this April 1st, and it will go, and then this will be renewed or reviewed in June of 2023, June 30th. And I had mentioned that at the work session also, I just want to make sure everybody's clear. Would anybody like to make a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve items 5A and D.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Marge. So we have a motion by Bruce, a second by Marge.
So is the handbook the final draft or just preliminary and there's gonna be additional changes?
Shannon, would you like to speak to that?
The handbook as it stands right now.
Yeah,
Yeah, the only change would be if potentially for our math class with, well, I said WSTC, Northwoods Tech for some reason wouldn't go through. I don't have a reason to believe so, but I kind of put that as a place filler. But otherwise, at this point, I believe it's final. Is there
So-
something on there that?
well, my only odd thing that I caught, team
Perfect.
sports 1 and 2 under physical education, it looks like you're expanding that for 9th to 12th graders. But then under the description of it, it still states that it is 10th and 12th graders.
Yeah,
10th through
it's 10
12th.
through 12, so I'll fix it. Thank
Okay.
you. What page is that?
Oh boy, 30,
I know.
30 and 31.
Okay.
Well, 31 would be where the change needs to be made.
Yep, perfect.
Any other questions or discussion? All right then, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. The next item is the consent agenda. We have minutes, board bills, and personnel update. Would anybody care to make a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve 6A 1 and 2, B 1 and 2, C 1 and 2.
Is there a second?
I second that motion.
Okay, thank you, Lacey. So we have a motion by Bruce and a second by Lacey. Any questions or discussion on these items?
That was 6A 12, B 12, C 12? Okay.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Would anybody care to make a motion on item 6C3?
I'll make a motion on that one as well. To approve that one.
You'd like to approve
Approve as
item?
presented. Yep.
Okay, and is there a second?
I'll second.
Cherie?
No.
Michelle.
Michelle,
Or
Marge.
no, let her have it, it's the last one, yeah, right. This is your last one. Go
It's my last one,
get
I
it.
approve one thing.
All right, so we have a motion by Bruce and a second by Michelle to approve item 6C3. Any questions or discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Aye.
All right, so the motion carries 6-1. And now Matt has gone to a notary of the Republic, and he is already certified. He's taken his oath, and so he can now give the oath to Lacey and Ian.
Otherwise, I couldn't have. I can't give the oath to myself, and they said I can't give an oath if I don't have the office, so.
So there you go.
I had to get it done earlier,
Oh,
that's all.
Thanks, man.
That makes it a lot easier.
yeah,
Very
thanks,
nice.
Matt.
Oh, Alicia caught the, I think Alicia caught it. Oops, sorry.
Do I get one of those?
Here, where are we going to, up here?
Oh, yeah.
Right here?
Yes.
State her name.
Yeah.
State your name.
Where do you want them? Where do you want us?
You're good.
I'll put it over here so that that camera catches it.
Yeah, you're good. You can see right here.
We're good?
Okay, yeah, right behind you.
All right. Repeat after me. Raise your right hand. I, state your name,
Lacey Oster.
who has been duly elected to the Board of Education of the Somerset District, of the School District of Somerset,
Who has been duly elected to the Board of Education of the School District of Somerset,
but have not yet entered upon the duties thereof,
but have not yet entered upon the duties thereof,
swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States
Swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of Wisconsin,
and the Constitution of Wisconsin,
and will faithfully discharge the duties of said office to the best of my abilities, so help me God.
and will faithfully discharge the duties of said office to the best of my ability, so help me God.
Congratulations.
No problem.
I got her.
All right, general information, our work session is May 9th, our regular session May 16th. We have a lot of other dates in May. And I hope everybody has the schedule, the May 10th and the May 12th, the May 23rd, 24th, and 25th. If you have any questions about it, please feel free to email either Alicia or I. And
Can-
then once around, I'm sorry.
Can we just go through that real quick? So,
Sure.
May 9th meeting,
Yep, and then we have, and that's where we're going to get the candidates that School Exec Connect will be recommending.
Yep.
And then on May 10th and
And
12th.
May
That's a
9th at
closed
6, right, the
session.
normal time.
The meeting starts at 6, but we'll have a closed session at the end of the
At the
meeting,
end.
unless you want to have it at the beginning of the meeting.
No, thanks.
No, you want to have it at the end?
okay, 6 PM, closed session,
After.
fall, got it?
And then May 10th and 12th will be when we're doing our first interviews.
And that's at,
5, it starts, and those are closed session. So it's May 10th and 12th, starting at 5,
this room?
and in this room. And then at the end of the interviews on May 12th, we will need to stay later in closed session to narrow it down to 3. So that might be a long night.
Okay.
And then we have our regular session on May 16th at 6 o'clock, listening session at 5. And then on May 23rd, 24th, and 25th is when the 3 candidates have a final interview. It's an all-day interview, but the board does not need to be here until, I believe it's 5 o'clock. That time is not on the schedule though. Alicia, do you remember anything about a time? I think she said 5.
I put 5.
I thought she said 5, the elementary school? Is that where we were doing it?
Well, I think we're doing it here because it's
In here?
closed session.
At
Yes.
5? No, I thought 5 was, we were part of the meet and greet.
And there's
Going
dinner,
at 5.
right?
Yep, and then we were gonna be 6:30 in here for a closed session.
I don't remember and it's not on the schedule.
Ah,
But we can
That sounds right.
check with Tony
That does sound
and
right.
confirm.
Isn't that, yeah.
5, be part of the public comment, right?
Yep, to hear what people had said throughout
We
the
come over
day.
here, we have dinner, interview.
Because that,
Yeah.
yeah, wasn't that people could, we could see them interact with.
Oh, yeah, I do remember that from discussion.
Is that dinner something you want us to coordinate for you guys? Is that dinner
Tony-
something you'll do here, or are you gonna go somewhere?
Tony sent an email about that. I
She said
think,
last, it was catered in last time that they did it.
yes, yeah.
Sounds like, not just the coordinator. Hanks is good. Hanks, good.
Not just pancakes.
And so on the evening of the 25th is when the board will need to stay late again after the 3rd interview to make a decision. And then it says May, but I think it was supposed to be June, negotiate the contract, and then take action at the regular session in June. And then they take over in July 1st.
And it was enter into contract negotiations or something in May, I think.
Yeah.
After that.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
When I just thought of something, like if you hire a superintendent from another district and they're finding out, I mean, that's something to keep in mind too, they're probably not gonna give a 30-day. I mean, that's not a lot of time to provide a previous employer, especially in that position.
they'll ask us to cover it.
Yep. So just
Try to work on
the
it.
timeline, even though it sets that way, it might be out a little bit longer.
We're worth it.
I mean, I'm a realist.
All right, then, once we're on the table, Marge, do you have anything?
No, I just think that we're improving as a board. I think we're doing better, and that we just need to leave politics at the door when we come here. We not support the special interest groups. That's it.
I just want to say thank you, Michelle, for your time with the board. You've offered a lot of good input, and I look forward to staying engaged with you in the community. So thank you for your time and what you put in.
Thanks.
And that's it. We've got a lot ahead of us. So
And welcome Ian.
and welcome you. I agree.
Yep.
That's it.
Same. Bruce?
I have two things other than Michelle and the art gallery out at the library. Just thank the art teachers from middle, elementary, and high school to have their show on exhibit down at the public library. Thanks for doing that. They had an open house last week, so it's up there till the end of May, I think they said. So go down there if you have time.
Some incredible artwork.
Yeah, yeah.
That's at the
Yes.
Somerset Library?
At the Somerset Public Library, yeah.
Well, let's give you back day tomorrow. Go down there, give them something and look at the artwork at the same time.
Yeah, there's a lot of really good stuff, and I'm just glad they did it. And then it kind of goes to the second one, just the outside events that are kind of happening again. I mean, they got the flyer today for the sports day at the school, and they have the concerts going on, so it's just nice to have that stuff happening again. So just thank the schools and making those priority again, because I think the community really wants that and needs that, so thanks.
My last one's around the table.
For now.
Yeah, for now. Well, thank you for the opportunity for the interim position. It was definitely an experience. And I would say, yeah, you're losing somebody really good. No, I'm just kidding. Yeah, welcome Ian to the board. I have my computer to hand off today. I also have the book. Did you give Ian the book?
I don't know, Ian, did I give you the book?
Okay, I can share and give Ian my book.
Okay.
I will do that to
You
save
check out
on
the
that.
key works of school boards?
Yes, I have to look at it.
School board member.
No,
Well,
yeah.
not to be a bad school board member.
Yeah.
It's just general pieces of.
Yep, so I'll give you that, 'cause-
I get the wisdom.
yes, it'll help you. But yeah, so thank you, and you will see me around, so it's not goodbye, so see you next time. I'll be standing there
See you
probably
soon.
presenting something. See you soon.
Thank you for being with us on the board. Welcome Ian, and also excited about events getting back to normal, especially prom. It's just so nice that these kids can have a normal prom this year. It's been a long time coming, so have fun with that this weekend.
Wait,
Yeah, I'm doing the all night thing.
Oh, it's fun.
Yeah,
It's fun.
we're volunteering.
Lots
so.
of energy in that building.
Mhm.
I will echo what everybody else said. Thank you, Michelle, welcome in.
Shannon, when is prom?
Saturday.
It's Saturday.
It's gonna be cold.
It's inside.
That'll be
Well,
inside
yeah,
this
I
year.
know,
Inside
but
sport.
I just think about, I always liked to come to the, when they do the promenade and the dresses, they're gonna have to make sure they have sweaters.
Okay, Mom.
All right, I will take a motion to adjourn.
I will make a motion to adjourn.
Thank you, Sheree, is there a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Michelle, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? And we are adjourned at 7:19.